The world has already changed in the past tense, and the conversation is happening on social media. And if we want to have a voice to affect that conversation, it's on social media. In the past, someone could go to the public square and say rah, rah, rah or something, and they can have their voice heard. Young people especially, not just young people, but especially young people, they're getting their information from social media. And if we don't have a voice there, then we're leaving that void open to others. We need to work together. We need to work in a coordinated way. We need to amplify our voices. And by doing that, we can have a real impact on this generation, on the next generation, and on the next generation.
Taking the Chazaq model of spreading the light and love of Judaism, Yiddishkeit, and the importance of that, if we can take that and empower those people to then fight back and to also be empowered themselves, say, I'm doing something, that's something.
Baruchim Abayim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program with special guests. We have with us our dear friends Dan Rosen and Aaron Herman. Baruchim Abayim, welcome. So good to see you once again at the Chazaq headquarters. And we're going to be speaking about a topic that I don't think Chazaq Torah Talks have ever had yet, and that is combating anti-Semitism. As we all know, it's unfortunately rearing its ugly head, and it's been growing and growing, especially after Simchat Torah's massacre on October 7th. Anti-Semitism is it's terrible. We're going to be discussing it and what can be done about it. And but before we do that topic, we got a little bit back about Dan Rosen. We'll start with.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Rabbi, for having us, and also being one of the first people to recognize how important the mission that we're on is, and so you're a visionary for that, and we really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well, and very important, 100%. Why not?
Thank you. So a little bit about me, basically. I'll start back my college days. I went to NYU between 1998 and 2002. And during that time, I was very involved with promoting Israel and combating anti-Semitism at that time. During that time was the Second Intifada, as some of you might remember, and all kinds of terrorism and things of that nature. And we were very involved, and we did protests and rallies and all kinds of letter-writing campaigns. And we were very effective at that time. So much so that we had the head of Hill International invited us to speak to them, to ask, what are you guys doing differently? Because some of the other campuses sort of, weren't responding in the same way. So we were effective. And then basically after, I graduated in 2002, I went into the private sector, and I moved on with my life. And up until recently, up until October 7th. And it's interesting because many of the people we were engaged against never stopped being active, and they've been working from that time until now. And we saw after October 7th how organized they were, how effective they were, both online and offline. And I sort of got recalibrated and decided that I had to jump back into the fight. And so that's what we've been doing since October 7th, got back into it. So that's a little bit of background on me.
Amazing. And Aaron. Herman.
So, social media is a complicated place. I was actually an early adapter to social media. I started actually in 2000 when it was the birth of the .com age. And on college, I helped bring Hillel to Binghamton University. I was the PR director for Hillel, and just learned how to tell the importance of stories. How can you tell stories in an effective way for organizational life. And I've had the pleasure to work in large organizations like JFNA and APAC and Birthright Israel Foundation. And understanding how organizations work is really important. And also the art of storytelling and being able to bring things to the forefront. And October 7th changed all of our lives in so many different ways. Like you, we were in shul when we were just hearing maybe drips and drabs. And something happened. Something happened to all of us. We call it a great recalibration. And for me, because I've been involved in the Jewish communal world for a number of years, I understood the importance of activism and also the importance of digital media and engagement. And it became clear to me that we were outgunned, and being able to activate our communities was so important. And, lucky enough, my good friend, Dan Rosen, who is an incredible leader and friend, he called me on, I think it was October 9th or 10th, with the big idea, right? and him and his wife Lila Rosen had a simplistic but effective idea: social media warriors. Right now, for me, when I heard that, it wasn't anything like new, right? But I knew that something had to be done, and so began Dan and I's journey to see what we can do in explaining how can we activate communities, because communities sometimes get lost in the fray. Like, you have amazing organizations like the ADLs of the world, AGCs of the world. They do incredible work, but in the community world, on your world, the Chazaq world, you do incredible work. Now, if we can empower people like yourself and your community to harness that power, we can do something incredible. And that's been our journey thus far. And again, thank you. Like, when we first, we sat down in the conference room, and I said, Dan, we have to meet the rabbi. I have to introduce you to the rabbi, right? Because there are a few people that I've come across in different experiences that you get it once you hear it, right? And you said, I'm in, right? And Dan likes to say it, I'm all in.
I'm all in.
That's what we like to hear.
So what I like about Dan and Aaron is that they're doers. They're making things happen. And it's very important in today's day of age. You have so many people just sitting back and just saying, whatever, it's not mine, it's not this. Every single person could do something. There's a famous quote, no one could do everything, but everybody could do something. And that's the concept of emissary, which you founded. And I want you to tell me more about it and why it's very much needed.
Okay, so sometimes when we think about the world, we talk about in terms of the world is changing. And I would submit to you all that the world has already changed in the past tense. And the conversation, as it's defined today, is happening on social media. And if we want to have a voice to affect that conversation, if we want to have input where people are being informed, it's on social media. In the past, someone could go to the public square and say rah, rah, rah or something, and they can have their voice heard. Well, young people especially, not just young people, but especially young people, that they're getting their information from social media. And if we don't have a voice there, then we're leaving that void open to others. And so what we're trying to accomplish is to make people understand that we need to work together. We need to work in a coordinated way. We need to amplify our voices. And by doing that, we can have a real impact on this generation, on the next generation, and on the next generation.
100%. And I also got to one really important part of all this. It's about empowerment, right? And you can't take lightly of what one person can do, even one, right? So you have a network. Your organization has a network. And we just signed up, was it 350 or 4 people right here in the office? And in the conversation Dan was having with one of your staff members, they said they have like 1,000 people on WhatsApp. 1,000, right? Now, picture this. We get all these, what we call communities. And how we define communities is like houses of worship and schools and camps, influencers, individuals, organizations. If we can take in schools all these like communities and put them on one network, the power of that. I last week I saw the film October 8th. Very powerful film. And it was explaining how this all, how our enemies, we call them our enemies, like how they operate. They create this network, right? It's sort of like this incredible network that they've built for 25 years, right? We understand, as Jews, we understand networks, we understand communities, right? But we didn't understand the power of doing that in a digital way on a piece of technology. And that's what we're beginning to do now. Taking the Chazaq model of spreading the light and love of Judaism, Yiddishkeit, and the importance of that. And if we can take that and empower those people to then fight back and to also be empowered themselves, say, I'm doing something, that's something, right? It's a very powerful moment.
I always speak about the importance of accumulation. 1 + 1 + 1 +, it adds up and then adds up and then adds up. And that's the importance of everyone getting involved. Now, I already know what some people are thinking when they're listening to this. Social media, we don't have it. Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff. What is it? How does it work? On a personal level, I don't have it as well. But I want everyone to understand the importance of getting involved. You might not have it, but others have it. And if they have it for business reasons, for whatever reason, they should use it for good things. And then besides for that, there's sending out emails. He's making phone calls to your local elected officials. All the major organizations in Klal Yisrael, all the Rabbanim, all the Gedolim, everyone say the importance of getting involved.
So I want to say one thing.
Yes, sure.
And it's really important, is that for emissary, you actually don't need to have social media. Of course, it's very helpful, but one of the great things, so the founders of emissary are David Crystal and David Burton, and there's a lead emissary named Ken Greer. And this technology was built for people who wanted to, again, going back to empowerment, right? To be able to go on a piece of technology, and let's say they don't have social media, learn, right? Be able to
Information.
so if they, let's say they don't have social media, learn what's out there so they can do it. And Dan will go through sort of the
I was going to ask you, what could people specifically do to fight against anti-Semitism?
Right.
So before this taping, I showed you the different things you can do, and there are 3 parts to emissary, which we'll maybe get into now.
Please.
So emissary it offers a suite of 3 different things. The first is called Ask Emissary. It's an AI chat, which was actually taught specifically to combat anti-Semitism. Unlike ChatGPT or Claude, where you don't know what the inputs were, the inputs here were specifically designed to combat anti-Semitism. So you don't need to be on social media to even use this, and we saw it before, where you can ask it any question, something you might have heard in the world. You maybe heard it from a professor. You saw something on television. You saw something on social media that you didn't necessarily agree with, but you also didn't feel strong about the answer. You type it in. An example could be, do Jewish people control the media? Something like that. Something like, something isn't true, but how do you respond? You type it in and it spits out a beautiful answer, which you can then use with students, with your friends, with your colleagues, even at the dinner table. And that's something that
in the workplace.
I
have a lot of people telling me, "Oh, my workplace, they have this discussion about Israel, about Israel, about this, about that."
I want to share you a personal story.
Sure.
How I use this. Okay. So I live in Westchester, and my son, who's 12, who I love with all my heart, is wearing his yarmulke all the time. And he was with my parents at this place called Rock and Jump in Westchester, and he was with my parents. He got separated. He was doing whatever, and he got surrounded by these high school kids, right? And they said, "Are you pro-Palestine or are you pro-Israel?" Right? And he did the right thing, and he walked away. But it's my 12-year-old, right? I sheltered him my entire life. We went to day school, Jewish camp, and as he's walking away, they went Zionist, Zionist, Zionist. My 12-year-old, right? He came home and he was shook, right? And he told me what happened, and I kind of knew what to say, right? But I took out my emissary app, and I plugged into the Ask Emissary, and I gave the situation, and it gave me a bunch of things, and I went a little deeper with it, and it's something very powerful. And you're not going to get this from a ChatGPT or a Claude, which is another AI. You know what it said? It said, "Tell your son to keep on wearing his yarmulke. Be a proud Jew." And it was just like, right? Now, that's what separates this from every other tool out there. And we need new tools, right? It understands. It was 100%. Trained to kind of...
I had a personal incident as well. I'm sure people... I gave this drasha over on Tisha B'Av, I believe it was, yeah. And basically what happened was there was a friend of mine that had a friend coming in from Israel. He does real estate over there. He needed a shul to use to, make a small presentation to some of his potential buyers. They asked if they could use my shul. In my place, I'm always looking to make things happen, and I'm a very active place. I said, "Bechabad, yeah, why not?" So he has a date. He has a time, and the next thing you know, this information went to the wrong side, and they went out and they put up a flyer, protest rally against the sale of stolen land. And all of a sudden, I get phone calls from all these big elected officials and rabbis and people in the community. What's happening? I'm like, I don't know. And the next thing you know, there was hundreds upon hundreds of anti-Eretz Israel protesters outside of my shul in the hundreds.
Right.
And it really awakened it really opened my eyes to see the amount of hate, the amount that they spewed against Jews, and it was terrible, and it really told me that we have to be a little more active. So I get a whole class about PSA, not public service announcement, but B is the passion. You have to be passionate about our Judaism. They were so passionate, free, they're screaming their heads off, even though they got paid for it, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
And then S was the importance. They came to visit a synagogue, a shul. Right. So S is shul, synagogue, that we should be continuing going to shul. Some people were worried, should we still go to the shul? I'm like, nothing to be worried about. Right. Just the opposite. Right. You should be coming more often, and that's what happened. Yeah. Much more people started coming. And then A was ahava, or all. What's all? Is that we saw the amount of hatred they had towards us. Crazy. The things they said, the signs they had. Intifada, they killed. They didn't finish you off in Hitler, Yimach Shemo. So we have so much hatred. People hating us from the outside. There shouldn't be any hatred within. Right. We should have ahava. We should love one, love all. Avat chinam. That's where the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Right. So the work that you're doing and trying to get it out there to the world is so important. That every single person, whatever way that he can, has to hishtadlut. You have to make your efforts to do something and to stop this.
By the way, you just expressed a manifestation of their connectivity, of their organization. They heard about something. They already had the networks built. They're able to act quickly and effectively. And they've done that repeatedly in place after place after place. And so as much
David did it in Borough Park recently.
They've done it all over the place.
They can press the button.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah. And as much as we don't like them and as much as we don't appreciate them, we have to be smart enough to understand they're being very effective. Mm-hmm. And we too need to become effective. We too need to become organized. And essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to organize people by ideology, not by geography. And the technology is what allows us to do this.
And one of the beauties of this is that it's a suite of tools, right? So some people are going to use this. We talked about the Ask Emissary part. And then there's actually three other parts. So two of them is that we call like the social aggregation. Is a local sort of social aggregation that happens of different types of things that are happening, let's say in Queens or in White Plains that are sort of to your area. And then another section is the emissary social, which is also an aggregation of different types of incredible social posts to talk about like the pro-Semitism, right? The powerful things of working together and to do some incredible things. And Dan will talk a little bit about the next piece.
So Aaron mentioned emissary social, which we have a professional staff currently that uploads content twice a day, great pro-Semitic things, promoting pro-Israel and pro-Semitic things, and also identifying anti-Semitic events. And you can upload that to your own socials, to your own Facebook, to your own X, Instagram. And essentially, if we all do this at the same time, we can have a tremendous impact. We can have millions or even billions of impressions. The other day, it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was at the gym, and I was exercising, and I could have watched the television, right, on the treadmill, or I could have, listened to a podcast. What I decided to do was to upload 7 different things. It took me 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, I uploaded 7 different things, and guess what? A, I had done something. But B, I felt like somehow a sense of control, of power, whereas as opposed to it's all incoming. I'm absorbing all the negativity. What am I doing proactively? This is a manifestation of me and my life.
Making things happen.
Exactly. And so for us to do something more than nothing is very powerful for ourselves and for our community. So we mentioned emissary social. The third part is actually the most exciting part, in my view, which is it's called Emissary Connect. And it's being built as we speak, and God willing, it'll be ready by the end of May. And what this piece of technology does is it allows people to work in a coordinated way on social media. So let me give you an example. Let's say, God forbid, something happened on 108th Street, a negative, what you described in your shul, right? An anti-Semitic event occurred. We want to bring attention to that event. What we could have done, once this was built, is we could have sent a ping out to tens of thousands of Jewish people and non-Jewish people, because it's important to have both Jewish and non-Jewish, within Queens, and say, hey, this event occurred. We want to bring attention to it. We're having a rally at this moment at this time. We could have get thousands of people to show up to that event. And then we can create a digital campaign across the country with hundreds of thousands of people bringing attention to the event that happened in Queens. And we can do this concurrently. And we can do it again and again and again. So I said the phrase before about organizing. We want to organize people and individuals young people, medium-aged people, older people, to work in a coordinated way on social media. And maybe I'll give one more example of how this works in real life. Does anybody here, do you remember, Rabbi, when CNN came out and said Israel bombed Shifa Hospital? It happened maybe 8 months ago.
I remember rumors, yeah.
What it was is it was Islamic Jihad who had done that. But the lie was out, and we had no comeback. And so if you
fake news,
the fake news, exactly. And what we saw on all the pages and all the social media and even on CNN, it said Palestine, 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 Israel, Palestine, Palestine, Israel. Well, imagine if we have this built, and we're going to have it built soon. We have thousands of people that we can direct to the CNN pages, to the comment section, to the Facebook page, and say, hey, that's not true. It was Islamic Jihad who did that. And what we would have seen is we would have seen something closer to Palestine, Palestine, Israel, Israel, Palestine, Israel. And we begin to even out the conversation. And that's the power of collective action. And that's called Emissary Connect, and it'll be ready at the end of May.
And one of the great things about this is that, like, Chazaq would have access to this, meaning that, like, you have this incredible event that's happening on Wednesday, right? And you want
we
to
have events all the time.
All the time, all the time.
We should come to them all the time.
But let's just talk about the event that you're having on Wednesday, right? You're gonna have a really incredible crowd and speaker, and so you can once this is built, right? You're gonna come to us and say, we have this event. We want to get it out to as many people as possible. But you have what we call battle tested technology, right? Now, Emissary is built on this incredible technology that it just not only empowers the user, but it's built on this incredible tech that's meant for social engagement, right? That a lot of companies use, and so that's our backbone, right? Which is really important to understand. And we're fortunate enough. We actually got a major grant from UJ Federation of New York. Now, UJ Federation of New York is the largest federation in the federation system. They told us this: you are the only ones that are focused on this, right? And they loved the fact that we can go large, in that what Emissary wants to do is we want to plug in. We want to work with larger organizations, like from federations to JCRCs to Chazaq, and also we want to work on the grassroots level, right? And it's really important to understand that. Now, if we just work on the larger organizations, and yes, they're incredibly important and they'll help us scale, but I call like Chazaq the spark, right? And what did the Jews do when they got the Torah? What did they say?
We will do and we will listen.
Exactly.
We will obey.
And this is what's so important, is that we live in an age where people want something. They want something to do. I feel every day I get punched in the gut of all the anti-Semitism and hate. And you know what? It's like, enough is enough. I want to do something. Like what Dan said, he was at the gym, right? And he took that 5-10 minutes and he was able to find the social post that spoke to him, and he shared it, right? And I also said, like, if you don't have social media, just take it all in and learn and be able to interact. I had a friend of mine who wanted to respond to something on Twitter, right? And he's like, I don't know what to say exactly. And he put it into Ask Emissary, right? He said, like, this is the situation on the post. And then he's like, wow. And it was like that. It was really fast.
It created it for him.
In literally less than 30
created
seconds.
The post for him. He could use it, and then he could put it in.
Right. So it's and this also goes like, when you find that social post that speaks to you, maybe you don't know exactly what to say. You could literally press a button. It says AI, right? Press that button, and then literally in less than 3 seconds, you have, this is what you can say, and you can alter it, but like you have it, right? And so the whole, again, it goes back to empowerment. And it goes back to connectivity and mobilization,
Amazing.
Right? And and I go back to the Na 70 Shema, right? And it's one of those things where, the Torah was written for all time, right? And so we want to take the values, and then we take the technology and we merge it, and that's what we're gonna do, and that's what we're gonna scale. And the fact that really day one you saw this value. And we want to be able to use this community because we know this community is so powerful. We know this community wants something, and if we do this the right way, we can show everyone like this is actually how you do it. And that's why we want to beta like this kind of like this grassroots engagement with Chazaq, because we know this community is so strong and it's a beautiful community.
Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. We appreciate it. And listen, this is This is work that is needed. Yes, we know Esav Sonet Yaakov. There's always going to be hatred, but to limit it and to explain and to give the right perspective to the world is very important. So we have a minhag, a custom on Chazaq Torah Talks, which is the final message for our broad audience.
So my message is this, that it seems, thank God, that the war in Gaza might be winding down. It seems like Israel has defeated their enemies with Hezbollah in the north. The Syrian army, Syrian government is imploded. Iran is defanged, and we might have the feeling that, okay, the war is over. And what I will say to everyone, to you and to everyone else listening, is that the war has just begun. And the war for the minds and hearts of the average American is continuing on. And it's important for us to recognize that and to and continue our engagement. And when the last bullet is fired in Gaza, it becomes even more important that we continue, because there's going to be the next event. We don't know what the next event is going to be, but I can guarantee you it's going to be there. And our enemies are not stopping. They haven't stopped for 30. I graduated college in 2002. They didn't stop from that day till today. They didn't stop trying to influence people. And so when things were quiet and good enough, they continued. And so too must we continue.
And what I can say is, like, everyone asks, like, what can I do? What can I do right now? Guess what? You can go to the App Store. You can go to Google Play or to Apple and type in Emissary and number 4 all and download it. It's a free app. And this is a time to come together as a community. Again, that empowerment, that learning, and that mobilization. Emissary number 4 all. And we can do something together. That's the beauty of it, right? Like, when we think about, like, community organizing, I mean, that's what you're doing. You're all these, like, kids who are not in day school or have no idea about, like, Yiddishkeit. You're empowering them. You want to give them that opportunity, right? Now, if we can give tools to help in your mission, this is how it works, right? What are most kids are on now? They're on their phones, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you get to people? Go to where they are. And we believe that through our suite of tools, we can help, the work that you're doing, because Emissary's mission really is to bring together different types of people, different types of communities, to make that part. And so when you download the app, it's important to register also. That's how you sort of get the full experience of Emissary. Again, it's just Emissary number 4 all one word on Apple and Google Play. And we look forward to, like, continuing this conversation. And we truly appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. We should only hear Besorot Tovot, only good news.
Thank you.
We should have the Geulah Shlema, the complete redemption. That way, all this stuff is not going to be needed. We're going to have all be together. I want to thank once again our dear friend Dan Rosen and Aaron Herman, combating anti-Semitism. Chazaq Torah Talks, Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Chazaq.org/live, CHAZAQ.org/live. Special thank you to the various different platforms that host Chazaq Torah Talks, with the emphasis to our friends at Torah Anytime. Also, a special shout out and thank you to our friends at Daily Giving. $1 a day goes a very far way. Dailygiving.org. And we shall only hear Besorot Tovot, only good news. And thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.